They gave her away like she was worth nothing, but little did they know she was walking into a life beyond their wildest dreams. A dimly lit room that was shabby, where a young orphan named Kemi was on her knees scrubbing the floor while her stepmother, Madame Clara, watches her with disdain. Kemi is an orphan and she lives with her stepmother who constantly mistreats her. Kemi's worn-out clothes and tired eyes shows the extent of her suffering. Madame Clara decides that she has no use for Kemi and she plans to give her away in marriage. Madame Clara and her daughter Vivian discuss in the living room about their plans to get Kemi married off to a stranger that they felt and they knew who was poor. Madame Clara speaks with Vivian discussing her plans to give her away to a man in a distant village because they don't want to see her anymore. Tunde, on the other hand, is an humble man. He arrives in a run-down cart. His appearance was modest, with ragged clothes, in a simple demeanor, and he was fueling the belief that he was truly poor. Tunde appears at Madame Clara's door to take Kemi to his humble home. His humble look fools everyone. Kemi was forced to pack her few belongings and live with him as she departs and Vivian laughs with satisfaction. Kemi standing at the gate of the mansion, clutching her small bag with her eyes filled with tears as she looks back one last time. Thinking, is it the life that I'll be living from now on? Kemi feels heartbroken, leaving the only home she had ever known. Even if it was full of pain, her stepmother cold eyes follow as she departs. Kemi and Tunde traveling in a simple cart down the dirty road, with Kemi staring out at the countryside. Kemi is quiet and unsure of what awaits her. Tunde tries to small to talk to her, but Kemi was barely responding. She assumes she has been handed over to a life of more suffering and poverty. In a tiny, modest cottage surrounded by farmland, Kemi was surprised by the simplicity, but she was grateful for the peace she felt in this place. Tunde takes Kemi to his small cottage where he explains his humble beginning and his lifestyle to her. He is kind but distant, treating her with respect, something she hasn't experienced before. Kemi was starting to adjust slowly. Kemi was sweeping the cottage and she also cooks meals. And also she tends to the farm with Tunde. As days goes by and Kemi gets used to the simple life, she is treated far better than she ever imagined she would be treated. Far better than she was treated when she was with her stepmom. But she was still missing a sense of belonging. Tunde was receiving visitors late at night. These visitors were well dressed, constructing the mother's surrounding. One night, Kemi notices Tunde meeting with a well-dressed man outside the cottage. Their hushed conversation aroused her interest and curiosity, but she keeps her distance. Kemi peeks through the window, watching as Tunde interacts with these mysterious strangers and visitors. Kemi begins to suspect that Tunde isn't who he seems to be. He seems to have connections that doesn't match his supposed sense of poverty and living of poverty. Tunde pulling out of his hidden chest, filled with expensive looking items. Kemi accidentally stumbled upon these hidden chests with gold and fine clothes in the storage room. She was stunned, but she kept it to herself, unsure of what to do. As time passes, Kemi begins to see more signs of wealth and expensive deliveries, discreet meetings, and Tunde's sudden disappearance. She starts to question who she got married to and who he really was, but he remains kind and humble to her. Madame Clara and Vivian gloating about getting rid of Kemi, they were unaware of her new life and her newfound peace. Back in the city, Madame Clara hears rumors of Tunde's unexpected fortune, but dismisses them, believing she's rid of Kemi for good. Kemi was standing before Tunde, holding the chest of valuables and demanding the truth from him. Kemi finally confronted him about his wealth and her suspicions. And she discovered a lot of things. Tunde hesitated, but reassures her that everything will be revealed in due time. Despite the misery, Kemi and Tunde grew closer. She begins to trust him more, and they develop a deep emotional bond. Kemi feels distance. Kemi feels loved like she never was, and she feels appreciated like she has never been before. Despite the mystery and all, she feels safer than she has ever been. Tunde takes Kemi to the city for the first time, where they are being treated with respect by wealthy merchants. Tunde surprises Kemi with this trip. To her shock, people treated him and them with great respect, hinting that he is much more than he appeared to be and much more than he is letting off. A grand ornament envelope was delivered to the cottage. Tunde received an invitation to a grand event in the city, and Kemi was puzzled but excited at the same time when he tells her she will accompany him. A luxury ballroom filled with wealthy guests. Tunde enters with Kemi by his side, both dressed elegantly. Tunde and Kemi attended the gala, where Kemi realizes the truth. Tunde is a billionaire, one of the wealthiest men in the city. Kemi feels overwhelmed by the revelation. Tunde now revealed himself as Chief Adewale, and he stands in front of Kemi and the crowd announcing his true identity. In front of the high society crowd, Tunde reveals his true identity as Chief Adewale, a billionaire who has been testing people's hearts by living humbly. Kemi was shocked, but also realized the depth of his love and emotions. Madame Clara and Vivian were at the event, and their jaws were dropping as they see Kemi in a new life of luxury. Madame Clara and Vivian were in attendance, and they were horrified to see Kemi, the girl they mistreated and maltreated wholly. As the wife of a billionaire, the tables have turned around. Kemi fully embraced her new life with Tunde, who was testing her character all along. She forgives Madame Clara and Vivian, but they live in shame and regret for their cruelty. Kemi's kindness and humility were rewarded, and she lives a filled life with love and happiness. Madame Clara and Vivian standing at the entrance of their grand event. Their faces were pale with disbelief as Kemi, now adorned in luxurious attire, gracefully greets guests by Tunde's side. Madame Clara gripped Vivian's arm in shock. The once poor man they gave Kemi to is now standing as the host of the event, towering above the guests in his elegant demeanor. Vivian, speechless, feels the weight of her mother and her own cruelty on Kemi. Vivian was nervously approaching Kemi, who stands with Tunde, trying to mask her jealousy and regret. Vivian tries to make amends, claiming they were always concerned for Kemi's well-being. But Kemi, now confident in her place, sees through the false apologies. Tunde silently watches the encounter, giving Kemi the power to handle the situation herself. Kemi gently placing her hands on Vivian's shoulder, offering a kind but firm smile as Tunde observes quietly. Instead of responding with bitterness, Kemi chooses grace. She tells Vivian that despite everything, she holds no grudges. Vivian was taken aback, expecting retaliation but receiving mercy instead. Tunde standing on a grand podium, holding Kemi's hand and addressing the audience with pride. Tunde announces to the high society crowd that Kemi is not only his wife but his greatest treasure, revealing how her strength and humility were what won his heart. The crowd applauds Kemi, and leaving Kemi overwhelmed but proud. Kemi was looking out of the balcony. She was overlooking the bustling city, deep in thought. Her appearance now polished, but her heart still humble. So, now surrounded by wealth and luxury, Kemi remains grounded. She reflects on her journey from the orphan who scrubbed the floor to a woman of dignity and strength. Her past has shaped her into someone who appreciates love and kindness over riches. Tunde and Kemi, they were sitting together under the stars in an intimate garden behind their mansion. Tunde opens up to Kemi, sharing the reasons behind his deception. He was tired of people loving him for his worth and not for who he really was. And he wanted to find someone who would love him for who he truly was. Kemi listens, understanding his heart, and tells him that she would choose him again, even without the riches. Madame Clara and Vivian returned to their home, walking through the now empty corridors of their mansion. As creditors demand payments, Madame Clara and Vivian they now faces the consequence of their greed. Their fortune crumbled, and they were forced to sell their home to repay debts. As they packed their belongings, they are haunted by the thought of Kemi's newfound happiness. Kemi was teaching a group of orphan children in a luxurious yet warm, inviting mansion, smiling as the children gather around her. Kemi, having experienced the pain of being orphaned and mistreated, opens a foundation for children without families. She dedicated her time to caring for and educating them, ensuring they never experienced the hardship she faced. Tunde standing in the boardroom with a powerful executive discussing new philanthropic initiatives. Tunde uses his wealth to give back to the society, investing in education and health care for the less privileged. He and Kemi became known for their power as a power couple with the hearts of gold and admired not only for their wealth but for their generosity and compassion. Tunde and Kemi were sitting together one day in the garden, holding hands as the sun sets behind them, their mansion in the background. As they sit together, Kemi reflects on the journey that brought them there. How a life once filled with hardship led her to find love, peace, and purpose. She smiles at Tunde, knowing that they have both found something far more valuable than wealth, true happiness and love. Thank you for listening. Please, if you've not subscribed, do well to click on the subscription button to subscribe for more stories.